Welcome to Kiska brand Bajega Marketing All Stars. Here, we dive into insightful conversations with marketing masterminds from the business world. So sit back, relax, and don't forget to take notes. It's all about travel in the Legacy Lounge today because we have with us Raj Rishi Singh, Chief Marketing Officer and Chief Business Officer Corporate of MakeMyTrip. Founded in the year 2000, MakeMyTrip is India's leading platform for flight and hotel bookings, holiday packages, and much, much more. What's the secret behind their marketing brilliance? Let's talk to Rishi about it all. Hi Rishi, welcome to Kiska brand Bajega Marketing All Stars.
Hi, thanks for having me here.
So we hear that you wear two hats at MakeMyTrip. One part of it is marketing excellence and the other part of it is business growth. So how do you balance it all?
As the Chief Marketing Officer, I look at growth for a B2C business.
Yeah.
How do we engage with consumers? How do we get new consumers on the platform? How do we ensure that consumers have a great experience with MakeMyTrip and hence they come back to us?
Yeah.
And my other role is to build the MakeMyTrip for business. For example, employees of companies, how do they get the same experience that a B2C traveler gets?
Okay.
And hence we are building products. The two namely products are MyBiz and then we have Quest to Travel for large enterprises. And these products are built keeping in mind that what's the demand of a business traveler? How do organizations want to ensure that their employees get great travel experience?
Yeah.
So two different roles, but very, very exciting.
And I'm sure you're doing a great job at it because following the slowdown in the travel and tourism sector that we saw a few years ago, MakeMyTrip has shown remarkable financial recovery and growth. Would you be able to discuss the strategic shifts or innovations that you implemented to navigate through this challenging period?
So these have been exciting times. Even in the low travel periods, they've been very constructive times for our organization because we always had a large number of Indians using MakeMyTrip to discover, to get inspired and to book their travel. So we had large history of data with us on how do consumers behave. And also we kept our eyes open during this time of pandemic. What we realized was that new trends were emerging. Indians were taking long break, like the long summer break or the long winter break, but they're also taking a lot of small breaks in between. That's one. Number two is people, like consumers also want to kind of stay away from places which are very crowded. For example, instead of Shimla, can you stay at Mashobra?
Yeah.
And when we saw these two trends together, we thought we must solve it on the platform. Staycations is another trend that came up post-COVID, that people want to discover places nearby. So what we did, continuously innovated around the consumer.
And along with hotels, I think the new trend nowadays is also for people to book homestays and get that local experience. Is there any way that you are catering to that specific need as well?
Very recently, we did this Big Boss campaign where we got Big Boss live on the platform. That Big Boss is available as a homestay on the MakeMyTrip app.
Yeah.
So we using this contextual opportunities to kind of educate consumers that evaluate homestays. We're making them discoverable on the platform, and on the back end, we are ensuring that the homestay, it's easier for homeowners to kind of
get into that ecosystem.
Yeah, to get into the ecosystem.
And we see the consumer centricity in the kind of innovations and offerings that you have with respect to both product and marketing, because things like zero cancellation fees and date change options are products that we also like using in our daily lives. And what I'd want to know is, how does consumer behavior and data science drive your product development and marketing strategies?
We have been the first app that comes to your mind when you think about travel. I mean, so historically, we've had a good understanding of how Indians search, what are Indians searching for. So we have kind of used data as our backbone.
Yeah.
And on top of that, we have built out products, and the idea has always been to ease out the journey. We haven't really thought about it, okay, let's monetize this opportunity. Our thought process has always been that how is the consumer thinking, searching, discovering, booking travel? What are the friction points that we see? And then can we build out products that eases the friction for the consumer?
Yeah.
And that's how these products like zero cancellation, book now, pay later, they've come out because of consumer problems.
Yeah.
And that's why we get 80% plus consumers come to our platform organically.
Wow.
There's huge repeat.
Amazing.
But the logic has always been to remove friction.
And an integral part of what you do in the content marketing segment is the kind of relatable content that you keep sharing on social media as well. So my question is, with the evolving digital landscape, how has MakeMyTrip's marketing strategy adapted to maintain consistent flow of content on social media, along with what you would have done in the traditional media as well?
I think from a principal point of view, we keep it very clear that be where the consumer is and talk to him contextually. I mean, for example, giving an ad when you don't want to see an ad is never right for the consumer, no matter how good the quality of your or how good your content is.
Yes.
And also be available when the consumer has the mind space to see it. And we don't want to beg for attention. So like our digital social strategy has been that lead by content, give great content, where you're not pushing your content out, but you're pulling consumers to watch your content.
Yeah, and talking about giving the people what they want and making the content fun as well, you had two big stars, Alia Bhatt and Ranveer Singh, featuring in your recent campaigns.
Yeah.
When you have big names like these, how do you measure the impact that they would have caused to your technical side of the marketing, which is, let's say, increasing your impact, increasing your brand loyalty, increasing your share of space in the consumer's mind? How do you measure all of it?
So I think Ranveer and Alia work out brilliantly for us because the ethos of the brand match pretty well with them.
Of course.
That's number one. Number two, what's also happening is that that media is getting cluttered.
Yeah.
And hence what Ranveer and Alia do is they help us cut the clutter.
Okay.
When you see Ranveer and Alia, you instantly think about MakeMyTrip, right?
Okay. Yeah.
So we save a lot of energy, save a lot of cost in ensuring that that the recall of our ads is very, very high. In fact, we do measure that. And we always see that our ads perform like a huge delta on what the category average is in terms of brand recall, in terms of building the story that we wanted to tell. And that's because of the two great brand ambassadors that we have.
Rishi, you've also emphasized that the future of marketing will be driven by tech-enabled personalization. Could you dive deeper into how are you leveraging it and how, if at all, you have included AI in terms of personalized consumer experiences?
We're quite decently invested into new technology, both from a personalization point of view and then using tools like AI to kind of also serve consumers better.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what it means. For example, if you're searching for a hotel in Goa, then we need to understand from your past search behavior that are you someone who enjoys being near the beach, does need a pool, and because there are hundreds and hundreds of hotels in a location. So how do we show you the top 5 correctly?
Sure.
I mean, that's closest to your personality type.
Okay.
But then also you might be traveling to Goa with friends and you might be traveling to Goa with family, and in both occasions your requirement might differ.
Very different, yeah.
Yeah. So then the second vector to this is context. And how do we understand your context well? And then if you're traveling with family, then maybe we show you stuff which is more relevant, saying that, okay, if you're traveling with kids, for example, then is the hotel kid friendly? Does the hotel have kids activities? And supposing you're traveling solo, then does the hotel have great bar, like a great bar, or is it near the nightlife of Goa?
Okay.
So I think we use deep data science and tools like AI to ensure that we both personalize and hyper personalize, and also kind of understand the context and deliver to you solutions basis both personalization and the context of travel.
Yeah. And going back to your take on consumer behavior with respect to how nowadays people plan shorter trips and more frequent breaks, has MakeMyTrip also adjusted its offerings in any way to cater to these new trends?
For a first-time traveler, how do you give him content which is not just telling where to book, but in some way guiding him where to stay? That you want to stay near the market, you want to stay near the city center.
Yeah.
What can you do around you?
Yeah.
So I think we're building a lot of content-based offerings where we help you discover new places.
Okay.
Like, for example, if you're searching for Shimla, then maybe Shimla plus Kufri. So I think we've kind of, again, learning, modeling basis what consumers want and ensuring that the same is mapped on the product and our flows are intuitive and you actually kind of discover what you were trying to discover.
Yeah. And what's also very unique to MakeMyTrip, I would say, is that it has two brands that actually are the face. One of it is MakeMyTrip,
Yeah.
of course, and the other is GoIbibo. So how do you ensure that both the consumer bases, I'm sure they're very different, but how do you ensure that they don't cannibalize into each other's market share?
So MakeMyTrip is this universal mother brand where all travel needs are catered and is positioned like that. GoIbibo is positioned towards the aspiring Indian,
Okay.
the Indian who has huge aspirations, but maybe has some budget constraints, but he still wants to live his full life. I mean, like live it king size. And we're trying to kind of bridge that gap between aspiration and budget by offering unique solves. For example, one of the exciting solves on GoIbibo is we figured out that there are people when you're traveling, you do not need the hotel for the full day because you maybe have an early morning flight or a late evening flight and you just need it for a couple of hours.
Yeah.
So we opened this product called hourly stays. Yeah, where you can book the hotels by hours. And touch wood, I think our two brand strategy is working quite well.
Of course they are, and I'm sure that you will also keep continuing these successes in the future as well. And as we look forward, Rishi, what major shifts do you anticipate in the travel and tourism landscape, and how is MakeMyTrip positioning itself to lead through these changes?
We are sitting in great times. There's a genuine intent in consumers to travel. The government is taking some really strong steps on ensuring that India becomes a travel hub in itself. And economically, touch wood, we're doing so well, I mean, as a country. So we're very well positioned. We feel very excited about the future. And what we want to do is to ensure that we catch on to trends early, be continuously in culture, keep on understanding what Indians want, and then ensuring that all those offerings and that kind of content is available on our platforms.
And with that, we are coming to the end of this segment. Rishi, thank you so much for joining us today. And I can't wait to see what MakeMyTrip has next in store for us.
Thanks for having me here.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Amit ji loves Bikaji. I think that's something that's so catchy. It really stays on with you, you know. So I'd love to know the thoughts behind your approach to this campaign.
Amit ji loves Bikaji is caught on so much, and we laugh about it very often that everybody's like, oh, Amit ji loves Bikaji. Very often they wouldn't say my brand's name, but just the tagline.
Welcome back to Kiska brand Bajega Marketing All Stars. And now it's time for our next segment, the next big thing. Let's kick it off.
Today, we're turning the spotlight on Bikaji, a traditional Indian snacking brand from Bikaner that serves crunchy namkeens and sweet delights. But it doesn't stop at finger-licking flavors. Bikaji's marketing game is on point too. What's the secret sauce behind those catchy campaigns? Let's talk about that and much more with Bikaji's head of marketing, Neha Rao. Hi Neha, it's a pleasure to have you here today.
Thank you.
So Neha, Bikaji has been known as the Aan, Baan and Shaan of Bikaner, and now you all are reaching out to customers all across the globe. Right from Europe to UAE, your bhujiyas and namkeens have been tried by them all. You know, Neha, so tell us more about Bikaji's wonderful journey so far.
It's about 30 years old. We started out as a regional brand, but we're also national when it comes to our distribution now. Today, we're the only company in this category that's listed. And past 10 years, it's been the consumer that's been at the heart of everything we're trying to do. A company like ours got Amitabh Bachchan on board as a brand ambassador back in 2019. Communication was not very traditional. If you've seen our ads, they've been on the quirkier side of even our brand ambassador. You know, he talks about first was to establish bhujia as a category. Then we moved on to adding categories, and now we just released a new campaign last year. Now we've started advertising also for our frozen food category, which is not in India yet. The plans are on there, but we're exporting all of that. So I think the journey from 2019 to now in itself has been extremely rewarding for the brand.
Perfect. I think congratulations for the IPO. And I think, you know, when you spoke about consumers being at the heart of it and really using nostalgia to connect back to it, I think that's fabulous out there. And linking this, so every brand has certain principles that they follow. And the principles that Bikaji follows, it's seen right from your packaging to your advertising. So what are some of the thumb rules, that you have used in Bikaji's marketing to take it across the globe?
If you talk about Bikaji as a company and our values, I think one of the major things for us has been that quality, extremely important. Second will always be taste, it's food, right? So that's something also that you wouldn't compromise on. Traditional recipes that have always been there, but every recipe will have something special, Bikaji being there. When you talk about marketing, like I said, we've been fairly traditional even in our approach of our overall strategy has been the driving principles have been, like I said, consumer first. Secondly, for consumers to really know about our expansions, we today have included many more categories in our businesses, which most people don't know yet about. It's still the whole bhujia, namkeen and sweets industry. But papad is fairly big for us. We are the second largest producers of handmade papad in the country, right? We also have Western snacks, which are there. So overall, if I were to tell you one holy grail for us is really to be a food brand here on.
I think talking about adding categories, the entire TVC space, Amit ji loves Bikaji. I think that's something that's so catchy. It really stays on with you, So I'd love to know the thoughts behind your approach to this campaign. Right. And how do celebrity endorsements actually go on to building on a brand's image?
In my industry, there was no brand ambassador earlier. In fact, our industry is barely spent on advertising. It was more about BTL, and they all believe that people know about us. They never went the traditional route of advertising. Bikaji decided to do that, right? And when we talk about Mr. Amitabh Bachchan, he personifies legacy and, the whole thing of, if you remember that Pratishta, Parampara and all of that.
Yes.
So I'll tell you honestly, we went in with that thought for the campaign.
Okay.
It just so happened, I think that Amitji loves Bikaji is caught on so much, and we laugh about it very often, that everybody's like, oh, Amitji loves Bikaji. Very often they wouldn't say my brand's name, but just the tagline. So it's worked very well for us for that matter. And now if you talk about it, our brands, a lot of brands have brand ambassadors, but I think we were the first. And in that sense, it worked well for us for sure.
So talking about consumers, primarily, do you think that Nimkeens is something that an older generation would probably go for? And how do you actually think you all are trying to reach out to the different segments, different age groups of customers out there?
Overall, if I were to talk to you about it, there is everybody who's my consumer, right? A lot of food with us. I talked about it, nostalgia earlier, also about family, right? And when you talk about a bhujia or a namkeen, it's been part of plates in most regions in the country in different ways. You come to a Rajasthan, bhujia is part of your lunch and dinner on the plate, literally. You end your dinner with a papad. So when we talk about the categories that we have, it's still part of it. But yes, I think the consumer is ever evolving. The taste will keep changing, and we have to make sure that we have something for everybody. I do have a small roasted range too, but the younger guys, yes. And I think they're all aware of what we do. I just think we need to connect with them more and better, right? And which is why we're always looking for avenues to make sure we balance that out.
Lovely, lovely. So now moving on, a quick rapid fire to make it more interesting. The first word that comes to your mind, if you had to describe Bikaji's brand personality.
It's all in one. You name it and you have, literally, close your eyes, name something, we'll give it to you.
Digital, social media or traditional advertising? What works better?
For us, I think traditional, but we're trying to get more active on the other front. So I'll say my focus is on that actually, but this has been working a lot more for us.
Okay. Influencers or celebrities? Who has more impact?
Again, Bikaji perspective, I hands down, Mr. Bachchan, so our brand ambassador for sure.
Which Bollywood or Hollywood celebrity would you love to see snacking on Bikaji?
Oh, so Bombay recently had Nick Jonas coming in. Maybe Priyanka and Nick Jonas together somehow.
Interesting.
That'd be,
that'd be pretty cool. Yes. Okay, and what's your favorite traditional Bikaji snack?
The OG bhujia.
Perfect. So that ends our rapid fire section. And, two questions now on the way forward. So, you have taken Bikaji across the globe. So what were some of your top lessons that you learned during this expansion period?
One, I think, so we have over 250 products and 700 SKUs. So that's a large chunk of products out there. And what we've realized is that one size doesn't fit all. Everybody knows about it. Regionally, and I'll give you a very simple example, even when I talk to you about when you start going down deeper regionally, there's so much more that comes in that for us, I think that's something we've started working on a lot. Regional marketing is, of course, very important, but vernacular, going down to that level where people are connecting with you has been very, very important. National is great, but also on a different level, everything works differently. You go to the Northeast today, the flavors that they're expecting out of you are totally different, right? They're high on chili and stuff like that. You come to Gujarat and Maharashtra, garlic comes as a very nice and very active ingredient in a lot of these things. Bikaner, Rajasthan side, maybe not as much. So with marketing, I think this is something we're really focusing on, and it's a learning. And I think for us, on a larger perspective, like I said, we all love bhujia, but one big learning was, of course, and I think you've pointed out in our discussions, is that the categories have now, there's a renewed focus on category-wise. So next time when I come here, I hope you'd have seen our ads on the other categories and you'd probably talk to us about those. So I think these two have been very big for us in terms of learnings.
That's wonderful. And finally, Neha, tell me, what do the future plans look like for Bikaji? Is it more global expansion, going more regional? What does it look like?
I think all of it, all encompassing, really. From the global perspective, there's so much growth potential that anything is less right now. But on a larger scale, if I were to tell you about, the vision that we sort of carry for the brand is literally to have Bikaji on every plate across the world.
Neha, lovely. We wish Bikaji all the best and wish to see you all grow to even greater heights.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Neha, for joining us.
Thank
and
you
it was
for having
truly a pleasure.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much.
And this brings us to the end of today's episode. See you next time. Take care.